No, replied the Count carelessly. For the other. He glanced at the tablets as if to recall the name. For Peppino, called Rocca Priori, you are thus deprived of seeing a man guillotined. But the mazzolata still remains, which is a very curious punishment when seen for the first time, and even the second, while the other, as you must know, is very simple. The mandaya never fails, never trembles, never strikes 30 times ineffectually, like the soldier who beheaded the Count of Chalais, and to whose tender mercy Richelieu had doubtless recommended the sufferer. Ah, added the Count in a contemptuous tone, do not tell me of European punishments. They are in the infancy, or rather the old age, of cruelty. Really, Count, replied Franz, one would think that you had studied the different tortures of all the nations of the world. There are, at least, a few that I have not seen, said the Count coldly, and you took pleasure in beholding these dreadful spectacles. My first sentiment was horror, the second, indifference, the third, curiosity. Curiosity, that is a terrible word. Why so? In life, our greatest preoccupation is death. Is it not, then, curious to study the different ways by which the soul and body can part? And how, according to their different characters, temperaments, and even different customs of their countries, different persons bear the transition from life to death, from existence to annihilation. As for myself, I can assure you of one thing. The more men you see die, the easier it becomes to die yourself. And in my opinion, death may be a torture, but it is not an expiation. I do not quite understand you, replied Franz. Pray, explain your meaning, for you excite my curiosity to the highest pitch. Well, Franz, you literally just said curiosity was a terrible word. Is that your point? I think that might be Franz's little agenda here. Curiosity, that is a terrible word. Dante has infected Franz with a curiosity from the first moment of the island of Monte Cristo. Is he suggesting that curiosity itself is a torture? Maybe not a torture of death, but that his time spent since the island in that state of curiosity has been a sort of suffering, an obsession, an unquenchable thirst for truth. I don't know. It's hard to put myself in the shoes of Franz. I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, and I had a lot of strange experiences with people being brought to places that I would never have expected myself being, with people in a much higher station than I ever will be in my life. And I never once really found myself questioning, like, how did they get to the place they are? Who are these people? Why are they the way they are? I guess that maybe that's just me and I took them on face value, but like, I guess Franz had such an intense experience that he needs to know more, but I'm trying to think of, like, what is it that has really imprinted itself on him? And the only thing I can really point to is just the kind of dreamlike nature of that first meeting, but it being secured by the experience he had under hashish. But Franz seems to have fallen back on his old life pretty solidly since then. I don't feel like his life has been irrevocably changed in a way that would lead him down this path of obsession for Dante. But I don't know, that's just me. It might help if I knew more about Franz. I mean, literally all we know of Franz has come from reading it here in this book. I mean, obviously, duh. How else would we know? We don't just get it through osmosis. But what I mean is, like, there's been no backstory for Franz. Not really. Little bits and pieces. We know he comes from Paris. We know he comes from money. But, like, who is he? Where does he come from? What are his past experiences that are painting his current reactions to things? And we are already in a really long book, so I'm not saying that needs to extend the the runtime of this thing. But if we're spending this much time through Franz's perspective, I feel like I need to know a little bit more about him, and I just don't. So I have me personally, have a hard time orienting myself to, like, what does all this stuff mean to him? Why is curiosity a terrible word? Why, like, did someone do Franz dirty in the past? Does he have trust issues? Was an injustice done to him that he now sees people with power and wealth to the extent that Dante has as a potential threat, a villain? Is he opportunistic? Does he want to get closer to him? Does he want his wealth? I mean, context clues a little bit. I don't feel like it's the latter, but what is it that's driving him? I'm not sure, except for this curious experience he had. Okay, sorry, I went really deep on Franz, and I meant to talk about Dante here because, boy oh boy, we learn a lot about Dante and the dark turn his mind seems to have taken. Seems to me that since his time being freed from prison, he has not let up on his preoccupation with revenge, specifically how to best separate a man's soul from his body. I mean, the fact that he can phrase it like that is more than just like, I want to kill this guy in a duel. He wants to, like, annihilate, a word that he literally used, the, like, molecules of their existence. Another word he used here. So an interesting thought that's coming to mind now is, like, since Dante has been out of prison, except for those few moments when he was, like, getting his footing on the cruise of La Jeune Amélie and going into town and cleaning himself up, we've really been experiencing Dante through other people's perspective. And I've questioned that a lot. This passage here, with his obsession with torture and the way people die and the customs in the different countries, like, that alone, that he's going to different countries, is obvious by his wealth and all of the things he's acquired that we saw in his cave. But this gives us an indication of what he's doing in those countries, which is, in addition to his other activities, he's making sure that he's witnessing the death and execution methods of those cultures. That seems like an intentional thing to do. I mean, you don't just happen upon that. So he's using his wealth to learn how to best kill people, which brings me to my point, which is maybe we've been in the perspective of other characters for so long because, by God, can you imagine the darkness and the oppressive nature this book would have if we were in Dante's mindset for all of that, and just the slow degradation and blackening of his heart. That would be really rough to get through 1,500 pages. And in a way, I wonder if that would lose the sympathy of the audience for wanting to see him redeemed at some point. If placing us in the perspective of others, we keep that mystery around, there's always that question of, can he be redeemed? But if we're stuck in his mindset and we see the dark places he goes and the bad things he wants to do, I think that would make it harder for us to want to see the good come back out of him. It would seem irrevocable. But that's all I've got for today. Let's continue tomorrow to see. I feel like we're heading toward witnessing an execution, and I don't like it. I don't like it. But we're going to push through it. Join me here tomorrow with a little bit more of Book 35. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.